Hi friends, it's Sudhya from Backyard Garden Highlights. Hope you guys are doing great today. Today I'm planning to do some more winter sowing activities for cool flowers and perennials. So let me take you guys to the list of flowers and list of perennials that I'm planning to sow today. And bear with me for all this guys, it's too windy, but this is the only day I get with such a wonderful temperature in winter. So I want to film this whatever the hurdles that I go through. So bear with me if my hair looking like a vampire. I don't know, I can cover everything in one video or should I cover in two videos. Based on the time it takes, I will split it into two videos. Okay, the first one I have is the Coolflower Madame Butterfly Snapdragon. If you guys watched my winter garden tour, you would have noticed that even though Snapdragon is an annual, I was seeing some greens in my Snapdragon plant that I planted last spring. If there is any luck, I will see if I get any bloom out of that plant. Otherwise, these seedlings will help me in terms of enjoying this year bloom from Snapdragon. And I really loved how they turned for cut flower and flower arrangement. It was so beautiful. I felt so sad that I was able to grow only few seedlings last year. So this time I'm planning to sow this a lot so that I can enjoy more blooms this year. Next one I have is Lupine. Lupine actually, it's a wonderful plant and wonderful perennial, and it gives spiky flower structure, and it is really a beautiful and long bloom structures. I couldn't really plant this last year, so I wanted to try this year and see if I can grow these lupines instead of spending too much from buying an individual plant. The next one I have is blue sage. I actually purchased sage plant last year from the garden center. I think I got some 3 plants, and I was really admiring them for their bloom structure, the color, and you know what, like the butterflies and the bees loved them so much. I was watching the butterflies throughout the summer season. I think this is one of the plants that can be used as a butterfly garden plant. This year also I'm adding, and I want to grow more of these plants, and I want to see if this is something deep don't eat much, so I can plant them outside as a border plant also. That's the experiment I'm going to try this year. That's why I have chosen this plant for winter sowing method. And then I have Alyssums. The Alyssum plant actually I really liked so much because couple of reasons. One, they are very small plant and they can act as a ground cover, which I think helpful for reducing some of the weeds. I'm going to try that this year to see if this can act as a ground cover for some of the raised bed. And then second thing I really liked about Alyssum is like they started blooming sometime in February last year. I think I did the winter sowing maybe in December. So I think I saw this flowering inside the milk jug itself starting February or March. I'm doing this planting later this year, but I think still zone 6B, the last frost day comes sometime in April. So I think February, March also I can do the winter sowing. So I'm going to try this. So I got 3 varieties for Alyssum because they started blooming in February and they lasted until sometime maybe October, November. They survived the mild frost only during the hard winter when the ground was frozen. That time the plant started dying. So that's really awesome. It's just a 18-inch plant, and you can tuck in planter or you can tuck in any of these hole in your garden bed where you want to fill with some colors. I really like this plant in those aspects, so I'm going to try a lot this year for this plant. And then I have onions. For onions, the direction is to direct sow them in the ground once the soil is workable in spring. But I want to try this in winter sowing also to see if I can get some seedlings. I don't know whether this winter sowing method works for onion or not, but it's worth giving a try this year, and if that is successful and working fine, then I can get a lot of seedlings before the spring starts, right? I'm going to try this year. Next I have Rubikya Black-Eyed Susan. It's a perennial. Unfortunately though, I got this seed packet 2 years back. I misplaced somewhere and I was trying to find and I couldn't. Finally I got this seed packet recently. So I'm going to try sowing this also in winter sowing. and that will give a nice plant, and this will bloom the first year itself. So I'm hoping to get some nice attractive bloom for this year from Rubikya, and I believe Rubikya seems to be deep proof plant because I have seen this plant outside, like a border plant surrounding the house in some of the houses when we used to go for a walking. I think when people are planting this plant without fence, that gives me some idea that this could be a deer-resistant plant. With that hope, I'm thinking that I can also try this in outside of my fenced garden. So let's see. And then next one I have is Verbena. This plant I have seen in India whenever we go for any tour to Kodaikanal or Ooty, those kind of cool area for summer. But I'm excited to really grow this in my own backyard garden. And this is my first time. I don't know whether this is something summer flower or it requires cool season. So I'm going to give it a try in winter sowing and also try during the spring so that I can be successful planting this Verbena. This is the milk jug that I winter sowed in my last video, the lavender one. Do you guys see the small droplets of the water? If you see these water droplets inside the jug, that means this jug is having enough moisture. So you don't need to water them. But if you see this water jug without this moisture level or the small water droplets, then it means the soil is dry and you need to water them. Alright guys, now that we have seen what are the seeds that I am going to sow today, now I have all the things needed for this project. For the winter sowing, make sure to use potting soil mix than the seed starter mix because potting soil mix can hold more moisture. Seed starter mix is really good for indoor seed starting, but when you do the seed starting outside using the winter sowing method, better to use potting soil mix. And then I have all the jugs that I needed for this project. Then I have all the seed packets that are needed for this project. I'm going to put all the soil and make sure to water them and make the soil ready before I can seed them. And it is good to keep all the soil ready and fill all the jugs before you start using the seed packet, because otherwise the seed packet may get muddy. The soil should be prepared in a way that when you squeeze it, it should be enough to hold the shape. It should not drop water. This is the leaf compost that I actually used for my rice bed. I have leftover. I'm going to leave them here and put this potting mix on top of that. This is how the soil looks now. Now I am going to make all these jugs ready for the planting. Take a milk jug and make sure you put at least 4 drainage holes. Then you make a little bit cut here near the hinge and here. So you need to make sure at least 4 inches of soil can be used for planting. And then once you make the hole here, you just try to cut along the line. Try as much as you can make it straight. So that's a pretty much quick summary of how do you get this milk jug ready before you plant. And now the greenhouse is ready. So you need to make sure you leave at least a ½ inch space here so that it is easy for you to carry from one place to another place and also easy to open and close. So make sure you put the drainage hole before you really cut this piece. That makes life easier than after you cut it. Putting the drainage hole becomes little challenging or tricky part. Alright guys, now all the milk jugs have been filled with soil. So let me show you guys how I am sowing the seeds. I will be labeling these so that I know what plants I am getting once the spring comes in and when I open the jug. I'm going to use garden marker today to mark all these plant names. Last time I used Sharpie when I opened the jugs in spring. I couldn't really evidence any of my plant labels, and that's one of the learnings that I got last year. After summer itself I started using garden marker. The garden marker that I am using really worked well throughout my summer and fall. I am hoping that this garden marker also works in winter time. Let's see. I am planning to use 2 labeling process today. One, I have just made using a yogurt cup. I just cut them into pieces and I am using that as a label. I will be keeping these label inside the jug, and I am also planning to write on top of the jug. It is easy to find which plant is growing. I will be like watching every week and almost every day during March to see the growth of the seedlings. If you are also such a curiosity person, you can also write the label on top of the jug. That will be, I think, easy for you to figure out what plant is growing. I am reusing some of the milk jugs that I used in my last year WinterSowing. There is some labels already there that I pasted last year. So I will try to reuse those jugs and reuse those labels possibly. The first one I am going to sow today is Madame Butterfly Hybrid Snapdragon. This is an annual and it's a Coolflower, so it will tolerate light frost also. Johnny's seed packet, I already told in many videos, I really love the seed germination rate with Johnny's, and the seed packet itself, it's a resealable. It's a packet that I used from last year. You can see how small these seeds. So I'm going to sow the entire seed packet into 2 jugs so that I get strong, nice seedlings. I didn't really collect these Snapdragon seeds from my last year's flowers, so probably this year I should collect, because you can see I'm almost going to use the entire seed packet today. This is how the Snapdragon seeds look. So I could see like maybe 20 plus seeds here. So I'm going to sow them in 2 different jugs so that I'm not overcrowding them and I get some nice strong seedlings from this. And again, this is very small, so all you have to do is just spread on top of the soil and maybe cover it with light soil. Firmly press on the soil so that the seed contacts the soil and stays in the place. Next is blue Salvia. So this is how the Salvia seed looks. Next one is gold dust Alyssum. Alyssum seeds also looks like a stock seed. So I'm going to put all these into the one container. And next, this is Alison pastel carpet mix. Do you guys see the difference? Annual seeds are very smaller and the perennial seeds, the gold dust one was bigger than this one. Next is Walla Walla onion. So I'm thinking of maybe 50 in one jug and see how. Anyway, I'll be transplanting, so I just need them to start with it. Next one is red onion, and this can be harvested in 95 days. And I'm going to use them, all of these seeds, in one jug also. Next, I'm planning to plant Rubikya. Next one is Verbena, and this is how the seed looks. I'm going to plant maybe 20 or 25 seeds. The label is also ready. I'm just going to keep the label inside the jug and then close it with the duct tape. And just make sure there is no dirt around the space before you duct tape it. This is the duct tape, and this will hold the entire winter. If you use the normal tape, it may tear off. So better you use the duct tape. So press it firmly so that it sticks on the surface of the container. That's it guys, the jug is ready. I'm going to repeat the same process for all the jugs. I'll be keeping near the fence so that it stays without collapsing during the windy time. Alright guys, thank you for watching. Hope you guys liked watching this video. I'll see you in another video. Please support my channel by subscribing, commenting and sharing it with your friends.